Hey youth, it is Pastor Bill here, and we are working through confirmation lesson number 17, talking about the seventh commandment. Now, in the past couple months, we've been going through all of the 10 commandments, and if you remember, the first commandment is the one that every other commandment, hinges on. So the first commandment is we should fear, love, and trust God above all things. And as we look at how we should fear, love, and trust God, God lays out a certain different ways that we can do that. So the first way that we can fear, love, and trust God above all things is by honoring His name and keeping it holy. And the second way is by honoring the Sabbath day, by keeping it holy. And there are so many different ways that we can honor God's name and make sure that He is the one that we fear, love, and trust above all things. And as we look at the second part of the Ten Commandments, God starts to show us that how we love Him and how we honor Him and how we fear Him is actually related to how we treat other people. So if we are to fear, love, and trust God above all things, there are certain ways that we should treat our neighbors. There's certain ways that we should treat our parents, and that's one of the 10 Commandments, right, is we should honor our father and mother. Another way that we can honor our neighbors is by not committing adultery. That's number 6. And today, as we look at commandment number 7, we look at another way that we can fear, love, and trust God by respecting our neighbor. And one of those is the 7th commandment, meaning you shall not steal. Now, as we look at that, that's pretty straightforward, right? Don't take people's stuff. But it's actually more than that. The 7th commandment in Luther's Catechism, his explanation is that we should fear, love, and trust God so that we do not take our neighbor's money or possessions or get them in any dishonest way. Okay, let's stop there. There's a little bit more explanation, but let's stop there for just a moment. We're to protect our neighbor's money and possessions, and we're not supposed to get them in any dishonest way. So I can remember, don't follow Pastor Bill's actions in the past, all right? So I can remember in middle school, there was this time that I was just a punk, and there was a guy who said that he wanted some test answers. And so I gave him some test answers, and he paid me, but I gave them the wrong test answers because he shouldn't be coming to me, and so it was not a good situation. I was not doing what God had called me to, but I was getting his money in a dishonest way. And so there was this piece of this 7th commandment that I'm not keeping. God says that we should fear and love and trust Him so much that we don't take our neighbor's money or possessions dishonestly. We don't lie to them to get money back, or we don't take things. And that's pretty straightforward. You shall not steal. But there's a second piece of that to Luther's Catechism. He says we should fear, love, and trust God so we do not take our neighbor's money or possessions or get them in a dishonest way. But we should help him to improve and protect his possessions and income. So it's not just that we shouldn't steal, but we should actually help protect what he has. And so, there are times where it could be easy to say, if he wants to spend his money in that certain way, that's on him. But God created us in a community to care for one another, to protect one another. And so we are called actually to help others improve and protect their possessions and income. Another way that I thought about this is how we use our time. So God has called us to work for Him and to use our efforts and our time to glorify Him. And sometimes when we are paid to do something, but we're taking extra long, or we're paid to do something, but we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing, we are stealing time. we're not protecting that person's possessions or his income. Now, as we look at these pro tips to remember, here's some fill in the blanks. You might want to write these down. The seventh commandment directs us to protect and to look after what belongs to our neighbors. It calls us to protect and to look after what belongs to our neighbors. The seventh commandment is also about how we live in relationship to other people. Remember, we were born for community, for relationship. And so how I treat you and how you treat me will impact how our relationship with God looks. Now, it goes the other way too, that God's relationship with us, that our relationship with Him is going to impact how we treat one another. We're called to allow the love of Jesus to flow through us to one another. And when we keep that love all to ourselves, when we are only having that relationship with God and not sharing that relationship with other people, well, that can become a sort of stealing, that you are not protecting their relationship with you. And so we go into this time, and you've got some different questions that you can answer, but we're going to just look at what does it mean that you shall not steal. And maybe you can look at it in a different way and see how God is calling you to protect one another's possessions.